Hi everyone, today we're going to be learning about the northern region of Europe. The lesson objectives for today are to use maps and globes to analyze and interpret the geography of North Europe, to locate the major countries, landforms, and water systems of Northern Europe, to describe the physical geography of Northern Europe. There are two vocabulary words. They are fjord and glacier. A fjord is a deep, high-walled coastal valley created by glacier movement and filled by the waters of melting glaciers. A glacier is a slow-moving river of snow and ice that moves on the Earth's surface. The countries of Northern Europe are Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. First up, we have Iceland. Iceland is smaller than the state of Kentucky, and it's located northwest of the United Kingdom between the Greenland Sea and the North Atlantic Ocean. It is Europe's westernmost nation. The climate in Iceland is temperate. The winters are windy but mild, and the summers are damp and cool. Iceland's plateaus are broken up by mountains and ice fields. Its coasts are interrupted by bays and fjords. Make sure that you look up the video on fjords to get a better understanding of how they are created and how they make up the geography of Iceland. Glaciers cover more land in Iceland than in all of continental Europe. Next, we have Norway. Norway is slightly larger than the state of New Mexico. It's bordered by the North Sea, the North Atlantic Ocean, and by Sweden, Finland, and Russia. Norway is temperate along its coast. The nation's interior of Norway is colder and receives more precipitation. So on the interior of Norway, it's colder and there's more rain. It rains all year long on the west coast. Arctic tundra covers its northern landscape. As you can see, in the northern parts of Norway, you're getting into the Arctic Circle. Fertile valleys and plains interrupt its mountains and high plateaus. Norway is the most mountainous Nordic nation. By the way, the nations in Northern Europe are often referred to as Nordic nations. I just wanted to note also that there are fjords in Norway, so the video I referred to in your modules is going to, about fjords, is going to be under Norway. Next we have Sweden. Sweden is a bit larger than California, and it's bordered by Norway to the northwest and Finland to the east. Norway to the west and Finland to the east. It's surrounded by the Baltic, Kattegat, and Skagerrak seas and the Gulf of Bothnia. Strategically positioned along the Straits of Denmark, Sweden links the North and Baltic seas. The northern regions of Sweden are subarctic. The southern regions are temperate with cold, cloudy winters and summers that are cool and partly cloudy. Mountains, the Scandinavian mountains, dominate the northwest of Sweden. Plains and lowland are in the rest of the country, and several rivers originate in Sweden and flow into the Gulf of Bothnia. It's important to note that the Straits of Skagerrak and Kattegat are right in here, right in between Norway and Sweden. Our second to last Northern European country is Finland. Finland is slightly smaller than Montana, and it's bordered by the Baltic Sea, the Gulf of Bothnia, and the Gulf of Finland. The climate of Finland is cold and temperate. It would be subarctic without the presence of the North Atlantic Current. So the North Atlantic Current makes the area of Finland warmer than it should really be because the current provides some geothermal energy. More than 60,000 lakes cover Finland, which consists mostly of flat plains with some low hills. Last up we have Denmark. Denmark is twice the size of Massachusetts, and it lies on a peninsula, the Jutland Peninsula, north of Germany. It's bordered by the Baltic and North Seas. The climate in Denmark is temperate, and it's often cloudy and humid with mild and windy winters. Summers are cool here. The land in Denmark is mostly low, flat plains, and Denmark is the flattest of all of the Nordic nations. The elevation is less than 600 feet above sea level here. It's important to note that glaciers contributed much to the formation of the region's landscape. Thousands of years ago, glaciers created the landscape of the Nordic nations. These glaciers cut thousands of lakes across the land. They also removed much soil, making the land rocky and unsuitable for farming. The movement of the glaciers also created deep valleys along the coasts. There are 3 landforms of the northern region that you need to be aware of. The first is the Baltic Shield. The Baltic Shield was once covered by ice, and the heavy ice caused the land at the Baltic Shield area to sink. When the ice melted, the land rose again. However, the land is still sinking, about 1 meter per century. This sinking has caused flooding in the lowland areas. The next landform is the Jutland Peninsula. We talked about Denmark being a peninsula. The name of that is Jutland Peninsula. There's also the Scandinavian Peninsula. The Scandinavian Peninsula is actually 2 countries together. It's Norway and Sweden. As you can see, it's connected to the mainland. However, it juts out, and so it is surrounded by water on 3 sides, and that is the Scandinavian Peninsula made up of Norway and Sweden. Water has a significant impact on the northern region of Europe. It separates the entire region except for Denmark from the rest of Europe. So if you look here, all of the northern countries are separated by water, and there would be Iceland over here. And then Denmark is connected to the European mainland. The Straits of Skagerrak, these pronunciations are not always the easiest, guys. The Straits of Skagerrak and Kattegat are important for both trade and naval operations. The North Sea is a source of oil and natural gas. You will see this again. The North Sea is a source of oil and natural gas. Also, Norway harnesses hydropower, which is water power, for much of its electricity. This is a renewable resource that Norway has begun using in order to power its nation. The climate of the northern region, when you look at each country individually, you have Denmark being marine west coast, Finland being subarctic and humid continental, Iceland being tundra and marine west coast, Norway being humid continental as well as marine west coast, and then Sweden is a mixture of the marine west coast in the south. In the central part of Sweden, you've got the humid continental, And then up top you have the subarctic in the northern region. The climate of the northern region is affected by the region's physical features and ocean currents, which would be that North Atlantic current. The land of the midnight sun is a term used to describe the northern region. During the summer, there are several weeks where the sun never really sets here. There's also a phenomenon called the northern lights, also known as aurora borealis. These lights are beautiful and they shine the brightest during the winter months. Red and greenish white lights are visible in the night sky of the northern hemisphere at this time. The overall climate of the northern region is harsh, and it's often subarctic or temperate. Mountains prevent ocean winds from reaching the inland areas. Oftentimes we've talked about mountains being barriers. It's important to note that both the land of the midnight sun as well as the northern lights or aurora borealis have videos in our module, and it's important that you look those over in order to gain a full understanding of these amazing phenomenon. I'm going to talk about the North Atlantic current again because you will see this on a future assessment. It's important to know that the North Atlantic current helps to keep the climate moderate and prevents ice from forming along the coastlines of the northern European nations. The North Atlantic current is an extension of the Gulf Stream. Its slow-moving, shallow current brings warm waters to the North Atlantic, making the climate of the Nordic nations milder than others at the same northern latitudes. Scientists estimate that without the North Atlantic current, the temperatures of the surrounding land would be 5 degrees colder. The natural resources of the northern region, the two that I want to bring most importance to are the geothermal energy in Iceland, which is heat from the earth, as well as the hydroelectric power in Norway. These countries have created alternative energy sources as opposed to using things like oil for powering electrical devices. So geothermal energy, hydroelectric power, this area is big into that renewable resource. Also, there are forests in Finland and Norway, natural gas and oil on the North Sea, and then in the Baltic Shield area there is copper and iron. In summary, the Nordic nations are Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. Glaciers contributed much to the formation of the region's landscape, and the Baltic Shield was once covered by ice. The region has two large peninsulas, the Scandinavian and Jutland peninsulas. Water has a significant impact on the region as well. Water separates the entire region except Denmark from the rest of Europe. The Straits of Skagerrak and Kattegat are important for both trade and naval operations. The North Sea is a source of oil and natural gas, and Norway harnesses hydropower for much of its electricity. The climate in this region of Northern Europe is affected by the region's physical features and ocean currents. The North Atlantic current keeps the area 5 degrees approximately warmer than it should be based on location. The land of the midnight sun refers to weeks in the summer when the sun doesn't set. The northern lights are a phenomenon that you can see in the sky. And then there is a harsh climate of both subarctic and temperate climates in this region. Please don't forget to check out the videos in your module There are videos for each country, as well as videos on the land of the midnight sun and the northern lights and glaciers. Also on fjords. So if you need extra information, don't forget to check those out.